Hello and welcome to Imp's AEW Adventures podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Help the network out by leaving us a 5-star review, give a donation directly through Red Circle, and become one of the amazing community by joining the Social Suplex Discord. The link is in the description. Read the Social Suplex newsletter. Shout out to Trish and Tim as always, and to every person who's contributed so far. Listen to the other top-notch shows here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network: One Nation Radio, Keeping It Strong Style, All Things Elite, Wrestling Art with Chris Things, Trish and Sarah, Tunnel Talk, and Sam Brown's AEW Match Guide. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and this is your quick look back at the AEW week that was. 30 minutes of building to the blood cages, one more week to go, many qualifying matches and whatnot. However, none of that is what people are talking about. They're not talking about the amazing segment with FTR, which I'm going to glow over later. They're talking about something which ties into Collision with a certain tag team walking out. So, but I'll talk about it within the context of the show when we get to it, because I have made sure to note down which place reported what and different comments and things. So I want to actually talk about it within the context of the show, which I feel like is the point of this podcast. But in terms of the shows themselves, we are stuck down south, spreading the good word of the Hangman. A night with the main eventers bookending a mid-card full of blood and guts men and women in their advantage matches, and we had the greatest scare of Stokely's life. On Dynamite, we got the final ones of those blood and guts matches. I guess spoilers, because they had essentially a best of three. We'll get to how on earth do you hype up a Collision third match without spoiling the Dynamite matches, and the answer is you can't. The second you announce it, immediately problems. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So let's start off with Dynamite. Let's start off with also a new singles championship. This time we're going to the Nationals, and let's jump in with the opening of the show, the Opps interrupting Tony Schiavone because he had to be on it on the attack last week, didn't we? So we'll talk about the opening and we'll talk about the close as this stuff with Hangman and the Opps. This bookend of the show, so we might as well talk about it as one. So anyway, let's jump on over to Houston, Texas for Dynamite.
What Hobbs, he's gone, hook up, and he's now the backbreaker. Oh God, that's it. Backbreaker is in, and Hook taps out. The Opps retain.
Yes, the Opps were out to start the show as the deliverers of consequence, but Hanger's music played with a charge out and security separating before anything could happen. Joe on the mic, whoa, 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 now we take care of two problems at once. The New Yorkers this time made the save to hype the main event. Page with the champion fire, Hook more direct on asking for the titles he had lost out on ever getting to challenge for. Joe all angry and stormed off fired up, like, my man, you've got to keep that heat for near 2 hours. You might have to chill. If you storm off all angry like that from the opening segment and your match isn't until the main event, that's a long time to maintain that fire. But for us, onto the main event, we just immediately jump. We got a decent enough wee trios affair teasing our Full Gear title match. Eddie looking more like a mad uncle is honestly a vibe I can get behind. Hangers and Shibata was a great wee little tussle. Stiff exchanges with both popping up, which later gave us a cheeky Katsuyori dick kick. Same went for Joe and Eddie, just two uncles sparring at the barbecue, chopping each other's boobs in a competition to show who's the tougher man, with their partners going, fuck sake, Eddie, why are you like this? It's just what I am, Tuds. I don't know why Eddie's a 1940s detective. I picture New York. I picture a crime. I don't know what. Oh no, it's happened again. I wrote down, when I was doing a D&D session, I wrote down in my notes that I wanted a character to be a film noir detective. I did one line and my friends were like, oh, Daniel Craig from from Knives Out. Daniel Craig from Knives Out. From that point on, he was John Feathers, criminal detective. He wasn't a film noir guy doing his narration like I planned him to be. That's that whole script I'd done gone. That's that gone. And it's happened again. Hanger's got the hot tag to flow, fire on Hobbs, moonsault onto a big strong man and rocks him before giving Eddie the fire back in return. In our Rochambeau, Eddie always loses to Joe, but Weeman Hook saved that. A potential great team finish tease with Hanger's buckshot and Eddie spinning elbow. Didn't get to play out. But then Hobbs struck out of context shouting, cowboy shit my ass, in quite the sentence to utter, but he did then slam Page off the stage with a world's strongest slam through a table. Hurty Hook and ambitious Eddie outnumbered and overpowered. The ending made me question that Hook was actually hurt, with the lamest looking torture rack I've ever seen, just playfully bobbing him up on the shoulders with no stretching of the back. The man tapped out and our big baddies got their pre-pay-per-view win. With Blood and Guts set to take focus next week, we'll get a promo from somebody. Page going, my back hurts but I'm gonna kick your ass, and Joe comes out going, I'm just gonna kick your ass. That's where we're at when we're entering the final week, so the promo could be that basic. AEW is a company that will look for those character beats to try and just elevate it a little bit. There's something about Page and Joe where I don't personally need it. I feel like the two characters are established and a bad badass willing to give a beating enough where the focus being the match and how much they're going to beat each other up is absolutely fine for these two specifically. But it has been an absolutely perfectly fine continuation since Wrestle Dream. I'm way more happy with revisiting this match than I am the TNT Championship. When that one was announced, I'm like, don't get it for the characters, don't get it. With this here, you're seeing such a elevation for both the champion in Hammond and what it's doing for him, and clearly what it's doing for Joe as well, that you immediately see why this match is happening, why they're going here again. Fletcher versus Briscoe, I feel like I'm on board with everybody else in why are we doing it again, especially if Fletcher is winning. What is the point of revisiting this match? And I'll lump all of the Blood and Guts advantage matches together so we get through the men's one and then the women's one all in one big swoop. First, the men's Blood and Guts advantage matches. First off was the Conglomerations Orange Cassidy versus Death Rider Claudio Castagnoli. These were a series of matches to determine which team has the advantage in Blood and Guts next week, instead of just the one bout where everybody jumps in and interferes. We instead got 6 bouts where everybody jumps in and interferes. Hooray. Big Super Swiss has plenty of counters for men who try. But what about Sir Cassidy, Sloth of the Realm? Even the skilled European got suckered right into that trap and caught by Orange's sudden quick snaps. Lured right in as the cocky Death Rider, with Cassidy genuinely able to hit a full flow. But he's called Super Swiss for a reason. He's from Switzerland. But also, the bold strong man with an awesome German lift transition thing into a Uranagi. It looked awesome. The best counter came from Cassidy though, a big strong suplex lifting the Orange one from the apron, but got slipped out of into a stunner. Pop, uppercut met with a Superman punch, but the second was all she wrote for Cassidy. Proof of how great an established character Cassidy is. He can lose this match, make Claudio look awesome for Blood and Guts, and still be the biggest star in the match. Like, he's just got that incredible ability. The second match with the goodies a match down. Darby Allin versus Daniel Garcia. Commentary reminded us that it was Darby Daniel attacked to get the Death Rider spot back at the ECW arena, but as they were hyping an if needed Mox versus Roddy match for Collision during both these advantage matches, it's fair to say poor Daniel was on the booking back foot from the start of this one. So you're telling me you're going to hype Mox versus Roddy and then not give it to me? It's just, this match in terms of how it was going to finish, doomed to be obviously Darby from the start. The Viking gods were unfortunately not in Garcia's favour, so at least there was an effort to make him not look a numpty baddie stooge during the match itself, right? Actually, yes. This is AEW. I need to keep reminding myself that certain booking trips aren't as 100% inevitable as their competition. I'm not going to say the same for Garcia coming out of Collision. Absolute stooge. Absolute stooge. Came out ineffective, through a table you go. In terms of wrestling factions, it's a literal definition of the stooge. To come out and go through a table. Allin looked to have a heated momentum advantage at the start, putting Garcia's arm inside the ring post before hitting it and chomping on it. Then a big old dive through the ropes to stop any recovery time. But eventually that recklessness caught up with him and that wee man found himself locked into a submission trap sequence. Danielson on commentary put over Daniel's training, but Allin has already been established as a man that does not quit. He doesn't quit, but he can pass out. Big old Scorpion death drop counter to a suplex float over, kicked us into our final act, and right into Garcia upping the ante, strapping Garcia's head between the ring steps and the ring post. A running dropkick and an angry Bryce Romsberg. A bloody wee man shortly after, and a Garcia distraction allowed Pac to make a jump to take the fella out, just making the 10 count with the final surge. Awesome spot with Daniel grabbing the throw and straight up slapping the man before locking in the Scorpion deathlock with a sting mocking. But again, the wee boy will never quit. An amazing roll and transition into his own Scorpion deathlock. Out submission tinkering Garcia himself, locked it in with torque. Garcia tapped. He was caught by Darby Allin. Pac immediately in after the bell, but Cassidy stopped the worst of it. Speaking of the worst, out came Wheeler Yuta. All the lads out to brawl in our mini lad set up for our bloody Wednesday. Commentary made sure to note that there was no Mark Briscoe. Not that it was needed. The Paragon boys, the two standing tall ahead of our Collision decider. So yeah, 1 win each, and we get to that. And Daniel Garcia came out of this match not looking like a stooge at all, and it made Darby Allin look like that even greater of a wrestler, where he beat Garcia with a submission transition into his own thing. Where if you're building somebody up as a potential top guy of the company, showing that side of him too is like, it's huge. More people can start to believe him in the matches themselves. Even if I do love the idea of another car crash title reign for Darby, where he picks it up, he defends it like crazy, breaks his body and loses in a much shorter time than we're used to. And because it's the world title, that means you can have a longer reign than his TNT title one, which was like 1 month. And the sole women's Blood and Guts advantage match, Mina Shirakawa versus Megan Bayne. Just a quick note on Queen Aminata, injured at such a crappy time, right before what was easily the biggest of her career so far. Mina the replacement, using the logic of her already being Toni Storm's tag partner, so why not? Go on, get that bitch. She is big though, isn't she? Yes, Toni Storm on commentary. To be fair, that was the most PG comment after she had just offered Excalibur to commentate over one of her orgies. Shirakawa used her speed and quick strikes to try and top down the tall and strong woman, succeeded enough to even hit a suplex on the apron, countered that Liger bomb too, but Marina Shafir choking out Toni on commentary distracted her a fair bit. Leaping clothesline and a lift back up for the running Liger bomb for the win. We are 1 week away from 2 multi-person proper matches. But as I got to this match in the show, I was like, is everyone but the main event going to have a run-out interfering distraction bit? Is that too many? Is every single match on Dynamite, bar one, having a run-out interference? Is that too much? Me, I felt it at this match. This was later in the show as I suddenly realised, oh god, yeah, every match has had one. But you are purposely building a multi-man match where there are these outside people, so in having them in all of them. It was a lot. It was a lot to have it happen in every single one of them. But you are doing it for a reason. Context is important. Honestly, I would have just tried to have not had it in the women's match, in their tag title tournament match. Just have that be a breather of outside interference stuff. But what they were doing with Mercedes and Athena kind of called for it. And to be fair, their opponents, Willow and Hardy, are in the Blood and Guts match, so there's no escaping it. I temporarily forgot Athena and Mercedes in the match. Like, there is no escaping. Blood and Guts is all around us. And onto the backstage bits. Set for a rerun of more than one Wrestle Dream match as Mark Briscoe interrupted Fletcher and Callis' interview. He suggested a no DQ match for the title at Full Gear. The two bald men accepted, but Briscoe ought to be aware that the added stipulation from Don, if Briscoe loses, he joins the Don Callis family. This has got big stakes. And we'll get to Collision where they do start to paint Kyle Fletcher as maybe he's a champion getting a little too cocky, maybe he's starting to spin himself a little bit too thin as he gets a bit too confident. That's the next notch on the Kyle Fletcher championship reign on his character. Getting a little too cocky, getting a little too confident, maybe taking a bit too big of a bite with Mark Briscoe. You might not be able to chew it, but I kind of feel like for the good and the future of AEW, Kyle Fletcher does. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like his character's at the point to lose, especially after a certain segment backstage with Kazuchika Okada in terms of how the Don Callis family can move on. Almost cementing that Kyle Fletcher is going to be the big name once Takeshita leaves. Well, we've got Okada and Fletcher. Also just an absolute, I just love Okada's thing. Just being like, yeah, he's, what do you mean Takeshita's got a champion thing? No, me and Fletcher are the champions of this family. I just love it. I love everything about their work at the moment. Yes, the new title. Let's talk about the new title. Whilst we're in the middle of a tournament for the current new titles, move aside women, it's me, the National Championship. A Full Gear Casino Gauntlet match to bring back a title last seen over 40 years ago, but it's not that title, because that title merged with the United States title, which is the same lineage which is being currently defended in WWE. But also in the NWA, they have a national title right now. Somebody is already one of those. He's one of the former Spirit Squad guys, I can't remember his name, but he's currently in NWA as the NWA National Champion. So this is specifically because there used to be one on TBS. Whether this has come from TBS themselves or one of themselves, whether this has come from Tony Khan being a huge fan of Wrestling Legacy, wanted to do his own, it's arguably relatively fine until on commentary they start talking about the lineage of the National Championship, saying this is the same title that it seems like they saw Wahoo McDaniel having, which is the one that merged with the US title, because it factually isn't. This is a completely new thing. If you don't mention that, because I understand there's a reason you want to add the prestige being like a title with this name on this channel has a lot of history to it, so it's worth bringing up. But they did kind of paint it up, this is the same title, which I feel like there's too many current claims to that throne already in existence. so yeah. But the idea is to kind of be what the International Championship was meant to be, where it is a title that gets defended across different promotions, I think was the idea for it. So a gauntlet match where anybody could turn up from any promotion, great idea. Great pay-per-view idea as well. My fear is it's purely so Bobby Lashley can win a singles championship. That's my fear. It's literally a title for Bobby Lashley. That is my little fear. Tony Schiavone introduced the title in the ring before bringing on two people who are already signed up for the match. We hurt people. MVP waxed over the past national champion names like Nikita Koloff. Ricochet interrupted to mega heat for his jabber. He'll be in the gauntlet too. MVP ended the segment with a great, you talk shit, we hurt people, run it. It's a little bit funny. If they created a singles championship specifically for Bobby Lashley to win, that is a little bit funny. And they tried to come up with some reason for it to make sense why they as a company should bring in a new title. You've only just merged two singles championships. You had too many titles. You're currently in the middle of a tournament for new titles. So let's bring in a new title. Don Callis again interviewed by Renee, this time with the Bucks and Alexander. The family all in, using Okada to give testimony to try and convince the Bucks to join the family too. Yes, come on, truly make this the most numerous faction in wrestling. On the AEW Top Wrestlers countdown I was on with Floyd and Sam, Floyd suggested taking this faction to 50. I'm like, yes, let's go into it. I like the idea of it doesn't matter which promotion you escape to, the Don Callis family will always catch you because they are so numerous, they are so big, they're just in the different promotions. I really like that idea as well. So they teased that with Hechicero, but Hechicero now becoming a bit more of a formal part of the family, seeing him on AEW a lot. But I like the idea of them just being so expansive and so big, so numerous. Jack Perry and Luchasaurus walked backstage, placed some green outside the Bucks locker room and stabbed it with a nice dagger. Like, hey, that's a nice dagger. That's surely worth far more than the dollar bills. Take the dagger back, Jack. Take the dagger. Not, surely you don't want to leave that. Also, one hilarious little bit in commentary with no filter Bryan Danielson saying, I don't like to order anything from Amazon. And Excalibur scampering for a transition given the company's deal to stream on said Amazon. So, well, there, you can stream AEW on HBO Max and on Amazon. Oh, yeah, Brian, shut up. I just love that. He's got his morals, actively sticks by them, even if he's on a show which has a deal with that company. Just, don't change Brian Dennison. And I brought this up a little bit earlier. The Women's Tag Team Championship Tournament, Mercedes Moné and Athena versus Willow and Hardy Cameron. 2 forever champions, 1 Ultimo, but 2 egos the size of Mars. So how did they coexist? Hilarious instant meme shot as Hardy was all chirpy, waving to the fans at the ropes, with Mercedes just staring her from behind. The filming of the shot was absolutely perfect. The baddies seemed all grand and on the same page at the start, but as things grew a tad more testing and difficult, proper heat during the ad break as Monet took Cameron's extension, put it in her own hair, then shook her head to whip her with it in the corner. Absolute nonsense, but yes, of course Hardy sold it like a pro. Like, well done. Not the hair. Willow with the post-ad break hot tag fire, but with Nay Aussie Pal the baddie numbers eventually caught up with her. Hardy's return came with Nay Athena and finally reflowed into all the lasses present for the final flow. Backstabber into the statement maker, but a great break with Willow pouncing Athena into the ground with women. Athena got to show off her strength right when he thought the goodies had it. Willow on her shoulders and Hardy held fronts to fall away both of them. The end, another interference ending just like last week. This time from a goodie perspective. Billy Stark's out to deliver the Ring of Honor Championship to Athena's hands, but Stat put a stop to that and poor Athena ate all the moves. Babe Bomb, her finishing maneuver, 1, 2, 3. And it's only a note because it was every match, and it was also the first round of the Women's Championship. And I said last week, I advocated for using the Women's Championship to fuel some blood and guts things, to get some early round matches out the way where they ended interference. I advocated for that, but now it's actually happened. I've completely twisted. And maybe it's because every other match on this card was also run by interference. It almost feels like they announced the Women's Championship, but Blood and Guts was coming up. So now we're in a spot where you have to do the tournament amongst the Blood and Guts build, and it just means they're all ending in interference. It's like, it's every match but the main event ended in interference. The segment I love the most will end on a high. FDR and Brodido. I bloody loved this segment. Dax and Cash out to the ring without their manager, really amping up their dickheadery with a call out. But Nate Champions showed up. We got to Stokely leaning on the dressing room door, watching The Wire on HBO Max on his phone. Sarcastic, darn it, from the in-ring lads as they talk shit at Bandido's family at ringside, with the men trapped in their dressing room. A round of applause for Grandma. How old are you? Putting the mic away before she can answer. If we're talking Day of the Dead, sister, then you take the cake. Can you explain how proud you are of your son, Bandido? Before putting the mic away again, like absolute assholes. I thought this was great. Generation of Heat. And then they started beating up Bandido's brother after asking for a kiss from Grandma. Just like pure villainy. When we cut to backstage and Brody's big tattooed arm punches through the door, a perfect shot, Stokely screaming and scampering out to the ring for Dax and Cash to save him from the big scary boys. Not only is Bandido an excellent wrestler, he also saves Grandma's ultimate babyface. How can you boo this man? But I thought that was an excellent segment. Loved Stokely throughout it all. Loved FDR being such absolute dickheads, like unforgivable levels of dickheads. What they did in this segment. Then Bandido comes out. He's absolutely loved for his in-ring skills, which means we do something like this, which paints him as the ultimate lovable babyface. He literally saved a grandma on this episode. You cannot boo him. You cannot boo this man. They do an ultimate level babyface thing and they get away with it because he's that good. He's that good. But anyway, yes, that was Dynamite. In spite of my critique on this one, I did generally enjoy it. It did absolutely fly by. I thought it was a fun show to watch. It did just hit me that, these are all ending in interferences. The main event was a break from that. Almost in okay, this is the actual main event where we're going to get an actual finish here. And then it was a bit of a naff finish. Because, I don't know if Hook was actually injured, but all I can say is that torture vac looked like he was being very careful with Hook. And he looked really naff. But anyway, that was Dynamite. Not the best in the world. Still entertaining as hell. I think it's because of my WWE fatigue. Seeing every single match end in interference gave me flashbacks. Gave me PTSD. Jumping back to it's like, oh god, no. Every main event ends in one because they can't have anybody lose. Oh no. We're not in that world. Say myself, there's no such thing as thing equals bad. There was a lot of the thing though. There was a lot of it. Anyway, let's jump over to Collision and let's start with the match that opened the show. We just finished with FTR. Let's start with FTR again. In the ring, Bang Bang Gang versus FTR.
He gets nailed by a left hand. Juice. Flatliner DDT. 1, 2, 3.
A match purely for Floyd to start us off. Juice's beard slowly returning, his hair gradually getting more wild each week. It didn't work to entirely take the crazy out of the man, but how about just a little bit? 3 of these 4 men took part in an early Collision classic, but this here was more of a showcase for the Boo Baddies ahead of their full gear match. But shouts out to the ad break spill from Austin Gunn, basically flat-backed onto the apron after Cash pulled the rope down. Juice got the post-break hot tag so the crowd could chant his name with the punchers. Ran riot until Dax and Cash got their act together. Come on lads, you're meant to be #1 contenders, but you can't contend with a loose Juice. Dax found his reversal, but But when Cash was meant to help keep things 2-on-1, Austin Gunn was instead the one to spill him outside. Cut to Stokely ringside, getting into verbal with a fan. But wait a minute, that's not a fan. That's Bandido's brother. And Bandido. Cue the chase. Jet speed walk out and super kick to the manager's face. No DQ called at all for the follow-up super kick to Cash. Juice with the win as FDR sat on the ramp, seemingly more annoyed that it was 6-on-2 than anything. Like, it took 6 of you to come out and beat us up. That is not fair. That is not fair. No mention of the fact that Cash got super kicked by people not involved in the match and it wasn't a disqualification. That was absolutely fine, apparently. Well, not absolutely fine. They were more annoyed that they got outnumbered. But nothing crazy, just a little setup to get us towards Full Gear with their title match. And they're not really going to be featured that heavily on Wednesday either because of the blood and guts taking centre stage. And onto the backstage bits, as always with Collision, there were plenty more. Kyle Fletcher with Renee in the same bar as the Dynamite interviews. They basically put a screen up and they shot it at an angle where you could see all the different lights for the show behind the curtains. So the walls were lit up differently for both shows. They put a TV screen there, but it's like you can see the seats. The seats are there, the tables are there in the background. The bar's out of shot apart from when they wanted to do a different segment later. They shot it from a slightly different angle with the bar there. But it's the same room, quite a long rectangle room as well. But they filmed this in the same bar as Dynamite. It said after Dynamite on the bottom left corner, but it had the red and yellow lights for Collision hidden behind the tiny curtains. So which is it? Is this after Dynamite, or did you light this up for Collision? You filmed it for Collision and then tagged on and after Dynamite afterwards. Okada interrupted to tell Fletcher he's behind him, that they're the two captains of the family, that wee little stab at Takeshita, and that after Full Gear, with them both as the champions, there'll be a strong team together as Proto-Okada. Of course, Kyle Fletcher loves that. And I feel like that will instantly get over. Fans will love that team. Two dickheads together rather than one dickhead and someone pissed off. Setting us up for what the Don Callis vibe is going to be once Takeshita leaves. My only hope is it's not positioning Kyle as a top guy for like when he loses his championship, he'll still be up there with Okada, or because he lost his title, Okada then positions himself at the top of the family. There's different things you can play with, but I like the idea of Proto-Okada. I love that. I like the idea of Takeshita was the one that saw him as a dickhead. I don't need the rest of the family seeing Okada as a dickhead. I want the whole family united and growing stronger, growing bigger. I need them to be too numerous. For some reason, Megan Bain's Wii moment in Stardom was shown in 360p. Came during a Wii video hyping both the women's tag tournament and Wednesday's Blood and Guts. Don't know why it's in 360p. Had the Stardom logos all over it. Don't know where they grabbed that shot from. Chris Statlander had some words for Mercedes, sat in a hallway all serious, telling her Full Gear challenger that she seems sorely mistaken by the silly antics Chris has been doing with Harley. The Death Riders were all backstage. When Don Callis and Kyle Fletcher had a proposition, backstage shooting, we couldn't give a piss. In the face of a suggestion of being grateful if Mark Briscoe was a little bit hurt coming out of the Blood and Guts ahead of Full Gear. Great little baddie on baddie chinwag that seemed to completely backfire for Callis. Mott's completely turned him down too. Like, you think it looks like we need a favour before walking off, and the two Don Callis family people being like, I think that went well. I like the idea of establishing, yes, they are two baddie factions, but they are not aligned in what they are trying to achieve at all. Why would they get along? I just like that, just creating that divide. They're not going to get along because they're baddies. That's not a thing. Lexi Nair backstage with Athena, who was pissed about getting pinned by Harley Cameron, reminding Lexi Nair that she's also a part of the Minions. Kind Canadian Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight threw their hats into the ring for the Full Gear Gauntlet match. Full babyface tag team promo, fully proven with a "May the best man win" finish with them shaking hands. Put this in the 80s. when they did the WWF, when they used to do the before the Royal Rumble promos. It's like, hey, we're in the same team, but we'll get that final one. If we're the final two, then may the best man win. Yeah, brother. Doing all that stuff like this. That DNA is still in wrestling. It's still there. And Max Caster and Auntie Bowens both booked for the tailgate brawl. Who booked you? A moron? Lexi tried to pass on the message of all their financials and their impact on the ratings are higher when they're together. The lads had none of it and ragged on Tony Khan. I am really enjoying this act at the moment. Back to the wrestling. No, that's the focus of Collision. Kyle Fletcher versus Ace Austin. Nice to see Tony's remembering more often that he's got Ace Austin on his roster. Presented as an opportunity for the young Ace, while painting worries of Fletcher maybe becoming a bit too cocky a champion. Even Nigel on commentary said the man should maybe act a bit more carefully. And Austin's return from ad break flop to have the crowd loud proved that. A big part of McGuinness's commentary hit on the number of times that Fletcher had to roll out to the outside. Powerbomb onto the apron and a big old sky high one in the ring finally had him in the flow. And in that, you know what that high kick in the corner flows into. But so did Austin. Nay brainbuster, instead leading to a top rope head scissors, countered into a potential power driver that was head scissors out of. A frantic final flow of potential big hitters. Each setup then had the second move countered, like a lawn dart to the corner, but the high kick dodge. The same went for Austin. Big knees drove Kyle's head into the mat, but the flow was caught and driven down with a brainbuster. Can't remember the name of his finisher. I've just generically called it a thing. The crowd was so hot for the final run with the young lad scoring so many close attempts. In the end, a brainbuster did end things. I'm assuming meant to twist onto the turnbuckle, but instead the head was driven onto the top rope certainly looking devastating enough to score the fall. This was match of the week. Really, really enjoyed it. And you know what? Yeah, no interference finish, just a straight up match which hypes and builds. This is my shit. This is my stuff. All the others felt like TV matches. This felt like a TV match, don't get me wrong, but I actually got to get hyped into the action. And it was, well, who's going to be the one to amp up and actually flow into this finish? And you're watching opponents getting their momentum with Kyle Fletcher making mistakes. You're seeing him becoming that cocky champion the commentators are painting him as. It's just good stuff all around. It's just good stuff. Because I think the problem with the interference end is you end up waiting for the interferences, which is the main thing that's happened with WWE. You end up watching a main event just waiting for the interference, so you're not really paying attention, or it doesn't really matter that much. But here, this match, this is the proof why you don't do that. Why you do hold off. I'm not worried that this is going to be an issue for AEW. It's very specifically in a blood and guts build week. It's a very specific thing. Right, on to one of the bigger talking points this week. TJ versus Hyan and Maher World. That's right, last week it was meant to be somebody else. If you've missed it, there was a wee story behind this match. Earlier reported by PW Insider that Nixon Newell and Miranda Alize walked out after not wanting to lose. However, Fightful did some digging and questioning and got clarification that their walking out actually came after fighting for more time for their match. Like, who knows what was suggested, if it was set to be somewhat similar to what we ended up getting. But one thing for sure that I've seen leak over onto Blue Sky, never mind Twitter, is that you'll be getting a lot of takes with folks unnecessarily ragging on them for wanting to win because media literacy in the toilet, or they only see the first headline. There's multiple reasons why I left Twitter, but not seeing that shit is certainly up there. But what I have continued to see is people having their takes on this, but they're sharing the PW Insider one, and that's the one they're seeing. For whatever reason, the follow-up from Fightful is not being shared and talked about as much, which is a bit disheartening. See a big report happen, then a second report comes out going, actually, this is what we're hearing. But it doesn't replace the first report. Instead, people just keep sharing the first report. So I was like, oh, okay. So I thought I'd share it here. From what Fightful could dig, they didn't want to leave because they were set to lose a match. That's not what happened. According to Fightful's digging, they were fighting for more time for their match, which I feel like, well, no matter what your take is on that, it's a different take, because we're not talking about what happened with Naomi and the Sasha Banks character. We're not talking about what that happened there with their titles. We're not talking about another person not wanting to lose, because that's literally not what happened, according to Fightful. So if we're going to have a take on it, it's going to have absolutely nothing to do with a team walking away not wanting to lose, because that's not what happened. That's been disproven from what I can tell from the Fightful report. But we don't know what was suggested. I can immediately have the take that it seems unprofessional to walk out, because it seems that way. But I read what Fightful wrote down, and I'm like, well, yeah, I clearly don't have all the information, so I can't have a hot take on it, which I know is boring, which I know is not how this internet world works. I'm meant to have a strong opinion either way, but the Fightful thing has told me immediately I don't have enough information to know how hot a take to have. Immediately I'm like, yeah, I don't have that information, so I can't possibly give an answer. Another reason I'm not on Twitter. I'm clearly not meant for that world. Can I have some more information, please, on why I'm meant to feel that way? Yes, you can call it unprofessional, but, at least know what they're being unprofessional about. You can still have the same stance of, but walking away is still a bad thing. Joey Janela did a shared thing about essentially wrestling is an acting gig, so any role would surely be to do that. And in AEW specifically, they're very strong on long-term rewarding people who do things like that. So whatever the mentality is, also we don't know what they were asking for more time from. Was it meant to be what we got? Is it meant to be what we ended up with? So I take the stance of, if I'm going to be talking passionately about feeling a certain way, at least I need to know what I'm meant to be feeling passionately about. And in this case, I can clearly see I don't have enough information. There's bits we're missing. So if I'm going to get heated about something, it's not actually related to the story that's happened. That's my main takeaway, and that's what I'm seeing online. I think a lot of people reacting and sharing the PW Insider thing, reacting to that bit, but they're not reacting to the further digging that Fightful did, which you could call a bit dishonest, but also PW Insider one's the ones that's got shared, so I'm not really too mean on people that react to what they see. I'd like people to do more digging, but I understand that's not really what happens. But the match itself was a quick wee jobber match to display our women's tag lasses, giving those pump kicks some legs before Megan Bain and Marina Shafir will treat them to a lovely time on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? No, it's Blood and Guts, both in Blood and Guts. Whenever their tag team matches, whenever that is, they've been treated to a lovely time, a lovely dinner out. So yes, I was meant to be talking about the women's tag team, but I think it did divulge a little bit into why I don't like social media, which I feel like it's a very understandable take. The women's Blood and Guts matches. Match number 2, Sky Blue versus Jamie Hayter. A decent little wee back and forth. Honestly, just nice to see this one play out with no lasses running out interfering. Don't worry, we still got that after the bell. We have got a multi-woman blood kerfuffle to sell after all. I do just want to shout out how lovely it was to see Hayter's wind-up variant of the Haterade lariat. It's a stiffer rainmaker, so so I just assumed we weren't going to see that version. Popped Sky Blue off of her code red and immediately snapped into that stiff swing. Tekla and Julia Hart out after the match, Willow and Hardy Cameron with the save, and we cut to break, only for the Women's Blood and Guts promo to play as a mask for the live crowd getting hyped into the immediate transition into the final advantage match, so I'll do the same. The final Women's Blood and Guts advantage match, Tekla versus Hardy Cameron. On commentary, they get a lot of spiders in Australia, Tony. I suspect none of them are as dangerous as Tekla. Nige clearly isn't aware of the Peppa Pig episode that got pulled from airing on Aussie telly because of the line, "You don't have to be scared, spiders aren't actually dangerous." Because down there they are. They're very much dangerous. Come on, Nigel, know your Peppa Pig lore. Amazing baddie work from Tekla, hitting snap moves at ringside before just going up to the barricade and going "rah" into someone's face. After the ad break, Von up in the corner so Tekla could show off her core strength. Hardy won and flipped out. Don't worry, Cameron was just going to lose the match on her own anyway. The Swanton Bomb rolled away from and a spear ran through the Aussie. The baddies with the advantage, as it should be. Because it's 2-on-1 beatdowns and then you're cheering for the next person to come in and even the odds. It's just naturally a situation where the baddies should have the advantage. These advantage matches, like WCW used to do them all the time as well. It's not unique to Blood and Guts type of thing. But it's just such an inherently a position for the bad guys to have that advantage. Matches just flow way more naturally when you do it that way. But this year we're getting the women's one with the natural flow and the men's one with the awkward 2-on-1 advantage going to the good guys, which spoils the main event, but solid. The main event, the men's Blood and Guts advantage match number 3, Death Riders John Moxley versus the Conglomerations, Reluctant Roderick Strong. How far we've come with the Death Riders, from meh in March to Marks Lee chants as he came out here. I've really enjoyed the man's work with Roddy and Kyle the past few weeks. A lovely little animosity bubble on our Blood and Guts build. Backbreaker Jones in full flow ringside, 2 in quick succession onto barricades before he gave Shafir a glancing eye before number 3. Love immediately cost him and we had an ad break of full Mox control, which stayed some once we returned to, once again showing off his wearing down and grounding submission ability. The losses to Allen and O'Reilly haven't gotten to him though. No, Papa Mox is totally fine. He's totally fine. Strong Roddy Fire reminded us he's also got kicks, but it was his own wife that tripped him up for a near fall. Angry Kyle immediately ran out, then Wheeler Yuta to counter him, with smart referees immediately ejecting them both, only for the same pack kick Darby Allin was walloped with to strike during the chaos. Stomp near fall frustration, armbar submission to the ropes, with Roddy refusing to die. That same bubbling up frustration looked like it was going to cost Mox yet again. Table set up by Pack at ringside. Kyle took him out and no table bump for Roderick. None for Mox either, as Daniel Garcia came out once again to be made a fool the second time this week as he crashed through the wood. I jest about the fool thing. I actively said, no, they did a decent job here, and that helped elevate Darby Allin, with Daniel Garcia specifically really not looking like a fool. Nah, here, total stooge. Total stooge. Steel steps back bump for John, and backbreaker fears never came into play as a mysterious tattooed hand grabbed the ankle and gave the goodies the count-out win. It was a taser-wielding Darby Allin, shocked Pac, and escaped into the crowd with his fingers on the trigger, threatening another snapping. You give that man any kind of weapon, and he's got absolutely no issue with fan proximity. Flamethrower? Nah, just stood on the ring apron, just blasting, finger on the trigger. Taser running into the crowd and just pressing it. No fear whatsoever. That was our final setup for Blood and Guts. Both matches promising that violence. So yes, get ready for a very different week this next week. This was the calm before the storm. Lots of run-out interferences and things. Lots of brawling chaos. Collision had a lot more of a grounded feeling of the matches actually having more standard results. It wasn't as much interference on Collision. I personally preferred Collision this week. Even though my favourite segment was on Dynamite with the FTR Bandito thing. My favourite match was on Collision with Ace Austin, Kyle Fletcher. Yeah, so that's my roundup for the week. A big one next week with the Blood and Guts show. So I'll see how much longer that makes the reviews, because going through those Blood and Guts matches, I feel like they deserve a lot more attention. So I'll go through them with a lot more detail than I would do on a match on a normal review. I don't really want to blast through talking about Blood and Guts. And mostly because I enjoy the matches too much. I really like their flows. So anyway, that does bring me to the end of the AEW adventure for this week. Am I being a little bit harsh on Dynamite? We're just complaining about the amount of interferences in a very specific, big, multi-person brawly affair where you are specifically putting them in these cages because of what's happening in these builds. It helps sell the reason why you're even doing a cage match in the first place, which was desperately needed for the women. Definitely feels like that's bubbled off a bit, maybe announced it a little bit too early or whatever. Or it's just been diluted because you've got the other thing to focus on in the women's tag titles. But don't you worry, there's another men's title coming up. We get to full gear, we've got another one. So thank you for listening, engaging in any form, any manner. Always appreciated, never taken for granted. I'll be back this time next week to talk about Blood and Guts and whatever the hell happens on Collision. So with that, I thank you and I bid you adieu. Ta-ra, ta-ra, duckies, ta-ra.